How confidence became a currency. Confidence was never meant to be traded. It was supposed to be a byproduct of stability, earned slowly through consistency and trust. But over time, confidence itself became something the system learned to price, leverage, and exchange. This matters today because confidence now moves markets faster than fundamentals. Expectations shift prices. Narratives redirect capital. Belief, once intangible, has become a measurable force with real financial consequences. To understand how this happened, we have to look at how modern systems reward perception. When outcomes depend on coordination, timing, and collective belief, confidence becomes more than emotion. It becomes infrastructure. The stronger it is, the easier everything else flows. At first, confidence functioned as lubrication. It reduced friction. It allowed credit to expand. It made long-term commitments possible. Growth accelerated not because risk disappeared, but because fear receded. But slowly, confidence began replacing evidence. Decisions were made because markets felt calm, not because structures were sound. High valuations justified themselves. Stability became proof of stability. The system started feeding on its own reassurance. This is a reveal beginning to surface. Confidence stopped reflecting reality and started shaping it. Assets rose because belief demanded they rise. Capital moved because hesitation looked dangerous. Confidence became self-reinforcing and self-protecting. Institutions adapted quickly. Messaging mattered as much as metrics. Forward guidance influenced behavior before policy did. Assurances moved markets even when conditions lagged. Confidence became a tool to manage outcomes, not just respond to them. The early tension formed here. When confidence is treated like currency, it can be spent too freely. It can inflate. It can distort signals. And when belief becomes more valuable than verification, systems grow fragile beneath calm surfaces. Confidence does not exist in isolation. It must be backed by reality to hold value. And when confidence circulates faster than truth, the system begins pricing hope instead of strength. How confidence became a currency is not a story about deception. It is a story about incentive. And incentives, once aligned with belief rather than evidence, quietly rewrite how systems behave. As confidence gained value, the system began optimizing for its preservation. Decisions were filtered through perception. Signals were managed. Language softened risk. Reassurance became strategy. Institutions learned that maintaining confidence often mattered more than correcting imbalance. A calm message could stabilize outcomes faster than structural change. Expectations could be guided before behavior ever shifted. Confidence became something to protect. Even when underlying conditions weakened, markets absorbed this logic instantly. Prices reacted to tone as much as data. Optimism extended rallies. Reassurance delayed correction. Volatility became a threat not only to portfolios, but to narrative. Confidence, once reactive, became proactive. This is where the reveal deepened. When confidence functions as currency, spending it produces results. Markets rise. Liquidity flows. Growth accelerates. But like any currency, overuse devalues it. Reassurance loses power when repeated too often. Behavior adapted accordingly. Participants began trading on confidence itself. Momentum replaced fundamentals. Positioning followed belief rather than balance. The system grew sensitive not to reality, but to shifts in sentiment. The early conflict sharpened beneath the surface. Confidence masked fragility. Calm delayed adjustment. Warning signs were interpreted as noise because belief remained intact. The system was stable, but dependent on continued reassurance. This dependency introduced a new risk. When confidence must be defended constantly, silence becomes dangerous. Hesitation becomes signal. Doubt spreads faster because belief had been carrying too much weight. Confidence was no longer just supporting the system. It was holding it together. And systems held together by belief alone face their greatest test when belief begins to waver. The conflict reaches emotional peak when confidence began encountering limits it could not smooth over. Not collapse, not panic, but resistance. Markets hesitated. Reassurance worked, but for shorter periods. Each message carried less weight than the one before. Participants felt the shift immediately. Confidence still moved prices, but it no longer anchored them. Rallies faded faster. Corrections arrived sooner. Belief no longer erased doubt. It delayed it. The system discovered that confidence, like any currency, could be overissued. This was the heart of the tension. Confidence had been standing in for certainty, but certainty requires proof, and proof cannot be manufactured through tone alone. When outcomes fail to match expectations repeatedly, belief weakened even if explanations remain polished. Institutions face a dilemma: spend more confidence to preserve calm, or allow discomfort to surface and risk reaction. Every reassurance bought time, but reduced credibility. The system was learning the cost of over-reliance on sentiment. Markets reflected this erosion sharply. Volatility increased in bursts. Liquidity retreated unpredictably. Prices reacted less to statements and more to stress. Confidence still mattered, but it no longer commanded obedience. The emotional weight of this moment came from realization. Confidence had been doing too much work. It had carried growth, delayed correction, and masked imbalance. Now it was being asked to restore trust it had helped dilute. The buildup was complete. Confidence could no longer function as substitute for structure. It could amplify strength, but it could not replace it. And when confidence stops convincing, the system is forced to confront reality directly. That confrontation was approaching, and belief alone would not be enough to avoid it. The resolution did not come from abandoning confidence. It came from grounding it. The system relearned that belief holds value only when it reflects reality rather than replaces it. The climax arrived with a shift in approach. Reassurance gave way to transparency. Expectations were reset instead of elevated. Confidence was rebuilt slowly through consistency rather than repetition. The system allowed uncertainty to exist without rushing to erase it. In response, behavior adjusted. Markets became less reactive to tone and more attentive to substance. Liquidity returned where trust and structure reappeared. Growth resumed, not because confidence was promised, but because conditions justified it. The resolution reshaped understanding of stability. Confidence could support resilience, but it could not be the foundation. It worked best as reinforcement, not replacement. When belief followed evidence, it strengthened the system. When it led evidence, it weakened it. What endured was a crucial lesson. Confidence is powerful precisely because it is fragile. It must be earned continuously. It cannot be stored indefinitely. And once spent too freely, it takes time to rebuild. How confidence became a currency revealed something deeper. Markets do not trade on numbers alone. They trade on trust. And trust, unlike currency, cannot be printed. It must be lived. Sometimes the smallest shift in perspective becomes the beginning of a new future. How